Asa Rehman, dead early from Vancouver. Hey, Asa.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah, doing all right. Doing all right.
It's been a week for you covering the Whitecaps after the news that Vanni Sartini is now sipping martinis on the beach somewhere.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a surprise, I think, to a lot of people, media included here. I think with the timing was the biggest surprise. The fact that it was 2 weeks after they were knocked out of the MLS playoffs, and then it was a little bit surprising as well to hear the comments from sporting director and CEO Axel Schuster, trying to explain the timing of it all, or the reasoning behind it, and the direction that they're going. It sounds like they wanted a new voice. They wanted to change things up, freshen things up, because the way the team looked, the way the team finished the last couple of seasons was pretty much the same. So while they give Vanni Sartini a lot of credit for taking them this far and kind of changing the culture, winning the 3 Canadian championships, it felt that the team just couldn't get over the hump. So the next person in charge is going to have to do exactly that, going to take them a little bit further in the playoffs and make them a real cup contender.
Obviously, a really popular manager with the fan base, with the media, but we know he could go a little bit rogue at times, which we saw a suspension to start this past season. Some comments he's made, which we love, and it makes him colorful. Did that factor in here a little bit, that perhaps Vancouver wanted a guy they could control a little bit more, or was more reliable in those situations?
Good question. Axel didn't phrase it that way. I think that they enjoyed sort of the marketing that he did for the team. He was the face of the club. I think he did an excellent job of kind of bridging the gap between the soccer snobs, if you will, in Canada, in Vancouver in particular, the ones that follow the Premier League, Serie A, and everything else, who have always been kind of too good for MLS. I think he kind of brought some of those people in, but also catered to the North American crowd. I thought it was just incredible at kind of bringing the fan base together, and did an excellent job there. And then you're right, kind of towed the line a little bit, and was maybe controversial in his comments at times. But I think that for the most part, they kind of enjoyed that and understood that this is kind of what came with Vanni Sartini, who's just his authentic self. But at the same time, when I asked Axel Schuster if that was maybe part of the profile for someone coming in, he said not necessarily. Obviously, winning the tactics and everything else is the most important thing. And he said there could be an opportunity, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, but if the next person isn't that focal point, that voice, that leader, then they'd have some of the players kind of stepping up and embracing that role. So it would allow for players and give them a little bit more space to be the stars that they can be in this market, and maybe get some of the attention as well.
Was the general feeling in Vancouver? I get the feeling that it was a surprise from the fans' point of view, and that they're a little bit disappointed overall. Is that right?
It depends who you ask. I think it was really interesting, and this is just kind of going off of some of the comments I'd seen online. And there was this group that was very surprised because of everything he had done, because of the playoff run that he had as well. Seemed to maybe turn a corner, and with a healthy Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Gauld, Andres Cubas could be a top 4 team going into next season. And there was enough evidence of that with the way that they played against Portland and LAFC. And then there was this other group that said, they need something different. And maybe there is another manager out there that can kind of utilize these players a little bit differently, get a little bit more from them. I think that everyone can agree that this is the most talented MLS team that the Whitecaps have had. And so the expectations are much higher going into next season. And if he was maybe on the hot seat going into the season, if he had a slow start, then why wait for that? And that's, I think, kind of the sentiment that's Axel Schuster made as well. At this point now, you at least go into the very short off season and training camp with your next person in charge going into next year, where the expectations are very high for the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, yeah, just shocking. I know, Sharms.
Good.
Hey, so
Do you have
you're,
anybody in mind?
hey, so yeah, go on.
Anyone in mind? Yeah, I'll quickly answer that. Jim Curtin's name came up because of the sort of admiration that Axel Schuster and the Vancouver Whitecaps have had for Philadelphia and the way that they've run things. But personally, if I look at that, I feel Jim's the type of person that I think would be kind of turning around a club and changing things. Putting a focus on developing younger players and making it work that way. I think that they're probably looking for someone. I would assume that they're looking for someone with a little bit more experience and kind of just can unlock the players that they have in place and kind of make it all work on a tactical side. So I'm expecting maybe someone. Honestly, I think Axel Schuster is going to utilize his network, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone that comes in from overseas. Axel spent a bit of time as well explaining how MLS experience is helpful, but not absolutely necessary. There are things that he'd want to make sure that the new manager understands about coaching in MLS, as far as the time differences, the climate differences, and the lengthy travel, things like that. So the fact that he spent a bit of time on that also leads me to believe that maybe it is someone from the outside, maybe someone from Europe that could be coming in. But as far as names in particular, yeah, Jim Curtin's the only one that's really come up, and I'm not sure of anyone else. And I do think that they're just kind of in the earlier stages of their search. Might have a couple people in mind, but haven't really tipped their hat on who they might be looking at the moment.
They wouldn't go from within. I mean, Vanni came from within the organization, right? And we saw Mike D'Agostino do a pretty good job early in the season.
Good question. Yeah, we talked about that at Global BC. We're kind of bouncing names around, and he's one that kind of came up because he had some decent success. He knows the room. Axel Schuster talked about having someone that kind of carries on what they've done and what Vanni Sartini has done. He really spoke highly of Vanni Sartini and everything that he had done in the last 3 years. So that would make sense in that regard. But I really think that they're looking for someone with a little bit more head coaching experience.
I'd like to see a Bobby Smyrniotis, somebody like that. Tommy Whelan Jr.
Oh, those two. Yeah, two of my favorites, honestly, and their names keep coming up. Haven't heard their names bounced about with this job in particular, but knowing Axel, I wouldn't doubt that he'd at least kind of entertain that and look into it and see what that could mean for the club, because, both of those players have done an excellent job. And if you're looking for head coaching experience, they definitely have that. And that's another thing that Axel had mentioned when someone asked about experience. He says, it doesn't need to be at the highest level, but sort of that experience as a head coach over seasons where you've had to adjust your roster, you've had to make changes because other teams have maybe figured something out, and you've gone through seasons of building a team. I think that is something that Axel definitely values going in here.
Frank Yellow's another one too.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. Would he go? I wonder if he'd come back to Canada. Craig,
I think Frank, at this time, I think Frank would absolutely do that. Yeah.
You guys have the network. You guys got to start bringing them all on. Do your own interview.
Jimmy Brennan.
Yeah, Jimmy Brennan as well.
I like that. Let's do the interview process on here. We'll start with Jimmy, and then we'll bring on Frank, Bobby, and Tommy.
Because I'll ask you guys, how enticing would this job be? And maybe for you, Jeremy, like, they've got pieces in place. They've got a core. Axel said that one thing that he wants to make sure is that they kind of carry out the vision here. And I think what he means by that is kind of stick to the core, and he said 11, but even if you say like 7 to 10 players, the spine of the team is pretty much in place. You go from Brian White, Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Gauld, Andres Kubos, Ranko Veselinovic, and then the roster moves he made on Wednesday at the deadline to make sure he's got both the keepers, a fan favorite, Isaac Boehmer. Everyone always loves the backup, and then the the starter since he was signed here as well, Yohei Takaoka. So I imagine that it's a pretty attractive opportunity for any coach.
Yeah, I don't think there's many managers that would turn that job down. I think looking at that squad, like you just mentioned, they do have some very good, exciting players. They've got a good fan base. It's a great city, well-run organization. They got a good scouting system in place. The academy, I think it'd be a great opportunity for someone to go in there and just turn it around. And I don't really think you need to do too much with that squad. I think they're there. It's just alter a few little pieces to get the best out of them.
You mentioned Bobby and Tommy there. I mean, they're two guys that have not only literally built a club from the ground up, but they've now have a veteran club, still, integrating youth, obviously, but compete on, year in, year out for championships.
Yeah.
They take a
a
lot
of turnover in Canadian Premier League too. They have that winning mentality and also very good in front of the camera. That's a big part of it. And those guys are slick and they've learned an awful lot in CPL, how to deal with that and media and everything else. And they're both class guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's maybe something that could get overlooked as well, is you come into this role, especially with the Vancouver Whitecaps and kind of still where the sport is in this country. And we touched on it earlier, but you're still selling the game to some degree, right? You're in front of a camera every other day. And then for Vanni Sartini, just can't say enough about how he would even go out of his way. Quite often we kind of do these sort of virtual interviews for Global BC, but Vanni would come from his home in Yaletown for the morning show with Jay Janauer on Global BC and do it in studio live. And that was his own decision on his own time on a match day. Would come in the morning, 8:00. Do the live interview and then manage the match in the evening. And that's, again, one thing that we've talked about at the office. There's no guarantee that the next one in charge is going to do that.
Kind of settles it for me. I'm going to put my resume in. I think I want the job. But Asa, I'm always interested in the language used when these changes happen. I'm going to pull up what, if you're watching, I'll read it for our podcast. But Vancouver Whitecaps, we are incredibly grateful for the last 6 years with you. Thank you for everything, Vanni. You'll forever be blue and white. Andiamo. Big picture of Vanni and grazie mille. So there's my Italian. But you said you were surprised. It's not Dan Wong is no longer working at Sportsnet. We wish him the best in his future endeavors.
Yeah.
It's not one of those, but it isn't. It's out of surprise. It's very nice words. What's beyond? What's in between? What are we not reading here? Because to your point, he's done it all there. He's created a community, which I would argue is one of the toughest things in Vancouver with the breadth of options you have out there. And he's brought them higher than he's brought them higher wins, bigger wins than any other manager in the last whatever, he's actually made them one of Canada's teams, meaning I'd watch Vancouver over TFC.
Yeah. And I think the thing that kind of stood out in hearing from Axel Schuster and kind of the conversations that he had, and even the conversations that we had with Vanni Sartini over the last month of the season, kind of when they went in this winless streak to close out the regular season and then into the playoffs. He'd allude to the point, and Axel had mentioned this as well, that they needed maybe a fresh voice, and maybe, and we see this in sport, the message goes stale after 3 years or right around that time at 3 years. And he's a very passionate coach, as you've seen. So I think that there was a sense that maybe, especially with this core group that's been with him through all of it, it's been the same group that is very talented and good and looks like they can get the job done, or at least kind of take them to the next level. Maybe Vanni's message or voice has just not resonating the same way with this group, and that's where they might need a fresh voice. And yeah, a lot of plugs for Global BC here, but Squire Barnes, a colleague, actually spoke to him and sat down.
That's not a real name. That's not a fucking real name.
Squire Barnes is the name. He's the guy here.
Great name.
Long time. Yeah.
The legend.
I want that name.
Vancouver.
I know. Right. I want that fucking name.
You have to ask him for it. Yeah, but he had a one-on-one with him on Wednesday. He just got into town, back in town, Vanni Sartini, and sat down with him and kind of asked him these sorts of things. And that was one that, Vanni even had mentioned and alluded to that, maybe the players needed a fresh voice in the locker room. And we see that happen over time, right? Especially when you have the same group, same manager for a few seasons.
Was there a bit of I was talking to our friend Carrie Ryan, and she is now become from I hate the Whitecaps to a late bandwagon jumper. And she said, I have that right because I live in Vancouver. But she said she kind of felt like there was a thread all season long with a couple of things that Vanni said, if I'm here next year, little things like that.
Right.
And
exactly right.
Insight. And so he must have known. And the way they, like I said, it's not future endeavors. It's a nice goodbye in the press. But it's not like overly, he's not getting the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, hey, rocking chair, or Dr. J rocking chair, or retirement, Michael Jordan. He's not getting any of that. It's just like, hey, thanks. You did a good job. Here's a picture of you. So it kind of seems like he was honest, knew what was going to go on.
Yeah, I think he did have an idea, especially when they went on that slide to close out the season. That's probably, as a manager, if he's kind of looking at himself in the mirror and being honest, he's like, hey, maybe this group needs somebody else. I think that honestly came into play, and that's when, you're right, Wonger, and Kerry would have noticed it as well. You started to hear those sorts of remarks, or that sentiment, and if you got close to him, you could kind of get that sense that, I'm doing everything here. It's the same group. And I do think as well, and he kind of mentioned this, that at some point once he made the playoffs, there was a focus on making a run in the playoffs. That became the priority and maybe contributed to that winless streak to close out the regular season. But I think that he kind of saw the writing well, or saw that this could be something that would happen. The timing of it was a really strange thing, because I think that he not only did he get these encouraging results against Portland and LAFC in the 4 games, but I thought it passed the eye test. I thought that they looked a lot better. It was a weird, unfortunate goal on the one Matty Bokush goal, the game winner, the decider in game 3, where it was sort of a clearance attempt, and then Anders Kubas is trying to get ahead to it to kind of knock it away, and it falls under the foot of Bogusz, and 2 touches and he scores. And that was the only goal in the game. Really unfortunate against LAFC. That kind of shows how close they are. And he thought if anything was going to happen, maybe it was going to happen in the days following that. But then we go 2 weeks with an international break. And then the decision was made. I think that was the most surprising thing for media and fans here in Vancouver, especially with such a short off season. Training camp starts mid-January.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding. It's crazy, isn't it? Well, I'm sure we'll get you back on real soon, because they're going to have to hire someone real soon. So
I do want to say one more thing, though. He's not going to have a hard time, I think, finding the next gig. And I know that, he'd do a wonderful job with any team. I think that he kind of ignites the fan base, and he's such an exciting manager to have. But there was another thing that kind of popped into my head, and I think he'd be amazing behind a mic on camera as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Apple TV or somebody else came knocking, because he's honestly his authentic self every time. And I'm so excited to see where he lands next.
I'm just thoughts on him touring with Nickelback.
He's always got that too.
That's where my money's going.
Give me the hype man for Nickelback.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if he doesn't mind working for free, there's always a place for him here.
Yeah.
Listen, I forgot that it's Thursday. We usually do footy picks on Thursdays.
We do. We forgot.
Let's do a group parlay here. One
Okay.
game each. All right, and I'll put $2 of my own hard-earned money on it. All right. So everyone pick a game. All right. Let me start. Get things going.
You ready?
Actually, I'll pick the dubs.
DJ Melody. It's 40 picks. It's 40 picks. It's 40 picks on Footy
I see JC must be here. I can't see him on the way my screen's. There he is. Hey, JC. All right, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna pick the dubs here, okay? And I'm gonna pick because she's like a big fan of Liverpool, and they're getting plus money obviously against Man City at Anfield. The way they're playing, the way City's playing. What the hell, dubs? We're going for a Liverpool win. All right. I will pick next, and I will go for. I can't pick United, even though I think they're going to be Everton. I'm going to go with Arsenal. They're bouncing back right now. Odegaard's looking incredible. They're on the road against West Ham. Sorry, Craig. I'm going for Arsenal there. Okay.
I'll go. Sharms.
Okay, go ahead.
Brighton over Southampton.
Brighton over Southampton. Okay,
Yep.
where is that? Okay.
That's tomorrow's match too.
Yep. Okay. Jimmy?
Yeah,
sorry, Asa, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'll touch that United match, United-Everton. I'll take the draw. Plus 340 is what I'm saying.
Ooh, okay. Draw. I like that, actually.
Very smart. I like that.
Jimmy?
Asa.
I'm going to take Man U to beat Everton.
No, you can't do that.
We have a draw there already.
Who said the draw?
I just did.
Just
That's an automatic lose in a parlay.
I'll take Tottenham to beat.
We can hedge it, can't we?
I just goes to show you. Hey, I wasn't even listening. I was in panic mode. Trying to figure out
we all in panic mode. All right, you got Spurs beating Fulham?
Yeah.
I know. Spurs coming off a really great win. Means they're going to be shit this weekend, the way they're playing.
Yeah.
Craig?
He's going to take Fulham over.
Sorry?
LA Galaxy against Seattle. I'll take LA.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Okay, let's go to some MLS here.
And while you're finishing that up, Sharms, Asa told me off camera that he's actually really happy that Vanni got fired because they had a really contentious relationship. There was a lot of finger pointing the last time they met, and I think Vanni actually spoke very badly of Asa in the press. It's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, I heard similar things. So $2.
Globe and Mail has a whole big thing about it. Bev Priestman's involved too. Allegedly.
Allegedly. $2, guys, will win us or win me because it's my money. $108.
Yes.
If that six-game parlay comes through.
Let's go.
I like that. There you go. All right. I'll buy you all beer at some point when that comes through.
It'll have to be happy hour, won't it?
Yeah.
It will. Yeah, no kidding. Canada's playing a couple of friendlies this weekend. Iceland tomorrow and South Korea on Tuesday.
And our friend
Dubs
is
involved, right, Wonga?
Yeah, our friend Dubs will be, I think, coming in virtually for One Soccer and doing a little of the panel. I think she wasn't as descriptive as she normally is, as verbose as she normally is.
Maybe they're flying her out to Spain. It should be on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think she would have told us about that.
Maybe, she may have done. So anyway, some international football coming up the next few days. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Asa. Appreciate it, mate.
Cheers.
Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Make sure you like us and subscribe and leave
Happy
comments.
American Thanksgiving.
That's
to
right.
our friends down
US
south and
listeners.
any listeners down there.
I think a lot of them, as a part of their family tradition for Thanksgiving, is they listen to Footy Prime.
I've heard that.
They really should. They really should.
Especially
Bit of NFL action on today.
NFL tomorrow too. Their first Friday match on Amazon Prime. So
is it really?
Yeah, Amazon Prime is getting into the sports game. So Amazon Prime, expect a phone call and an email from Footy Prime, just so you know.
We should learn quickly, actually, what the future of the Premier League is here in Canada, because the international rights are coming up very shortly, if not already. And a little bird told me to keep an eye out on DAZN getting back in the mix.
Yeah, and we also know that it's a 6-year agreement down south in the U.S. with Fubo. Only 3 years here. So back to what Sharms was saying, the decision should be made within the next month, and hopefully we'll know who that is, and we can start conversations with that company too.
And it's going to be, I think, a defining period for the Prem because they've taken the rights of their productions from IMG after 20 years. I think as of the 26-27 season, it's all going to be in-house. So listen, streaming Premier League channel is on its way. Sure, that's what this means. Maybe not
$20 a month. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, they do like getting the money in from the Fubos, the Zone, Sportsnets, TSNs, obviously, but this is the way they control everything. And just charge us suckers whatever they want because we know we'll pay it for the Prem.
There was a time when the Premier League liked the fact that the countries had something that was homegrown as part of the broadcast, and they went away from that and just signed up for the money and no broadcast or studio shows around it.
Right now, I have TSN, I have Global BC, I stream that. I have Fubo and I have DAZN. It is not cheap to be a sports fan right now in Canada. That's all I can say. I don't have Sportsnet.
And you have to watch network TV because your missus is involved strongly in it.
I do, but I get to watch it live on City, Law and Order Toronto, coming out in February, I think.
Antenna.
Yeah, the HD antenna because I am cheap as fuck.
The rabbit ears up on the roof there,
over the air.
She actually got 2 seasons, didn't she, Wonger, this time?
Yeah, 2 seasons in a row. Yeah. So they're they're producing their 3rd season right now, but wrapping up season 2.
All right, that's awesome. All right, everyone.
Don't forget to get Discovery Channel so you can watch coming up season 2 of Timber Titans, voiced by some guy.
Timber Titans.
Let's promo everything.
Yeah, this is promo time.
We should be sponsored by these bloody networks. Jesus Christ, man, love we give them.